The Gen Zs have threatened to storm the streets yet again in demand for good governance. In fact, it's considered a final attempt to remove President William Ruto from power. In studio, I'm joined by Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is seated on my immediate right. He is a governance expert. In the middle, Vivian Tar, communications and public affairs expert. And on the far end is Jackson Kihara, an interdicted prisons warden protester. And just to begin, first of all, with you, Jackson, what's the status of your case?
I'm currently interdicted. I'm just waiting for the final words and final verdict of my case, which can take a while, like it can take even a year, 2 years. So I'm still waiting. I'm receiving half of my salary. I'm yet to know what will be done to me.
Will you want to resign before even that case is determined?
According to the Constitution of Kenya, you can, like your resignation can inaweza kataliwa kama if you have a pending case. So I'm just waiting until the case ends, so ndio nijue cha kufanya.
If at all you are clear to go back to your job,
yes,
would you take it up?
I don't. Currently, I wouldn't say what I'll do, but I'm just waiting for the case to end, so for me to determine what I should do after that. Yes.
Well, that's Jackson Kihara, alias Cop Shakur, who once carried a placard, while in uniform, but is now interdicted. Let's now focus on our topic of the day, and that is well captured on the Daily Nation. My director, Joanne, is going to display that. On the cover page of the Daily Nation, Ruto-Raila deal faces litmus test. President William Ruto's broad-based government, in which he has co-opted ODM leader Raila Odinga, faces its first test today as the youth plot a fresh round of demos in their continued push for governance reforms. The president has once again warned the protesters to shun violence, while the US has waded into the matter. Cop Shakur, Zakayo atashuka?
Shuke kwa sababu hajatusikiza. He's trying to use the teaching that he was taught by the former dictator of Kenya, like President Moi, and I don't think that will work to these young people. These young people want to be listened to, and they are not being listened. Our skizwi. So what we feel as like the young people is that come out to skizi, you should just resign, you together with your deputy and together with the Speaker of the National Assembly, so that we give a room for fresh elections. Yeah.
So Kenyans should expect a massive protest today?
Yeah. A peaceful protest. Yeah, tunakuja pale town kuambia president, if you're not listening to us, you better just resign.
So you believe today's demonstrations, by the end of the day, the president will have already resigned?
I think
similar to what we saw perhaps in Bangladesh.
We are
the prime minister.
We are a democratic country, and vitu zote zenye tunafanya according to constitution. So at a constitution allows the president to resign if the president ameona like it's very evident that you cannot employ those incompetent people water. Alafu you're saying like shida sio wewe, and a fish rots from the head. So if you're the head, then we expect you to be accountable. So, and I think the president has really failed the young people. He's not listening. He's just using force. Watu wamekuwa abducted, police brutality, and that's not what we want as young people. So what we feel right now is that the president has failed. Job yake haifanye vile inatakikana, and tunataka to resign. Yes.
Cop Shakur, previous demos have not had a massive turnout.
Yes.
So you believe Nane will be any different?
As tumekuwa na massive turnouts ya kuna siku yenye watu walifika parliament, alafu before waanze kulipa maguns, so kumekuanga tuna turnout poa. So I believe, but this one tumeamua wote tunakuja kwa street and tuko atutaki pia guns kwa street. But I believe and I know leo kutakuwa na massive turnout.
And out to Vivian Ta. Nane is here. You know, Kenyans are used to Saba Saba. This time around we have Nane. What do you make of today's demonstrations?
There's something I wanted to say about the previous conversation on the appointment of the CSs. I think we need to separate personal issues from issues of, say, ability, capacity, and integrity. If you're going to talk about someone's inability to hold office, let the conversation focus on their capacity, their ability, their integrity, and such conversations. Let's move away from personal attacks about how someone dresses, how someone talks. Everybody is different in that sense. So that would be my advice to Kenyans. You don't have to like everyone who's been appointed, but when you're submitting memoranda or just talking about the president's appointees, let's focus on issues of integrity, issues of capacity, and issues of ability. That way we have an objective conversation that's not driven by emotions and incitements. Now, on to Nane. As someone who's been on the streets, who's been, a protester and taken part in my democratic right to protest, first of all, the right to protest and picket is entrenched in the Constitution as per Article 37. So it means anybody who feels aggrieved or wants their voice heard or just has something to say and wants to express themselves is free to protest, to demonstrate peaceably and unarmed as per the Constitution. And this is not a right that should be taken away. My only concern would be, as you go out, it would be good on an individual level to know why you are going. Don't just go out because people are saying let's go and you don't know why you're going out. Some people are going out just because Kihara is going out, so let me also go. If you're going to go out to protest, let it be clear in your mind, why you're going out to protest, what it means to you, why it's important. But it's definitely a right that's entrenched in the Constitution. Every Kenyan should be free to express themselves, on the demonstration. On my way here, I saw already heavy deployment of security enforcement officers. I think some places even there were roadblocks already set. There was heavy police presence already, like within the CBD. I hope truly that the police are there just to keep the peace and not to brutalize anyone or harass, protesters. I hope they're just there to ensure that, the protests are peaceful and we will not witness any people getting shot, harassed, beaten, brutalized, because that, of course, would go against the basic rights of Kenyans and the protesters. The last thing I'm going to say is, because again, this democracy, we secured it at a very high cost. If people are saying, if majority of Kenyans are saying that they do not want the president and they do not want the government, they need to remember, the question is, how did he get there? How did he get the mandate to lead? It was through the ballot. We went to the ballot in August of 2022, and we elected, the contenders, and the person who had the highest votes won and was sworn into office. And he got the mandate to lead the country for the next 5 years. If we get to a point where we feel this guy has let us down, he's not doing what we want, there are ways of, removing a regime. I don't know if protests is the way. Maybe it's one of the ways, but in the Constitution, there's the option, of course, of impeachment. There's also the option of resignation. So I get that the protests are supposed to push for the resignation, but I don't see the end goal of the protest. I feel like it's more about expression of dissatisfaction with the government, but I do not see how it will result in, a change of regime.
Dr. Isaac Hassan, recently in Bangladesh, the Prime Minister resigned as a result of, demos. And Vivian cites that there are two options, either through resignation or impeachment. The Gen Zs have lost faith in the Kenya's parliament, and they believe it's a house of rubber stamp. They have, or it's considered more of an extended arm of the executive. These demos that are now staged, an attempt of removing Ruto as president, are they going to have any impact anymore? You know, the previous ones, before even the storming of parliament, perhaps made the president reset his government. And the youth believe it has not still been reset in the right way. And that's why they're out on the streets. Your comments on the Nane demos today?
I think lawlessness is not something that we are praying for, simply because a nation like ours is surrounded by neighboring countries which has collapsed with a lot of insecurity, with a lot of issues that perhaps Kenyans are not aware of. People in neighboring countries are facing very, very difficult life in terms of their basic needs and basic rights, including, you know, killings with nowhere to run to, including rape and a lot of other things. An example is Sudan, which has just recently collapsed. Somalia has been like that for the last 35 years. And definitely we will not want to go that direction. We are, Kenya being the hub and the highly developed East African nation, we will love to do things differently. And one of the things that our young people have adopted is the fact that they say they will going to demonstrate. This is inculcated in our constitution. Article 37 gives us very clear way, you know, means and ways of doing our demonstrations. And the effect and the purpose of demonstration. The purpose of demonstration is mainly to go and present your issues to the authorities. And you do it by demonstrating, and then of course by submitting of you know, a memoranda, and all those are avenues that are available. But when we talk about the president must go, I think my sister was to the point. She said we bring presidents through democratic. Our president is not you know, a military. He didn't come in through military. He's a civilian president, and he has been elected. And therefore, the only option we have is, one, we are able to submit our dissatisfaction of government services, which already we did, and some actions have been taken, including sending off all the cabinet secretaries. That's the government we talk about. And then now revetting them, those who have been returned and those who are not very much useful in terms of, according to the definition of the appointing authorities, then they have been left out and new people have been brought on board. But I think the issue of saying Ruto must go, I think that's a silent coup, you know, because you cannot just wake up and say a president must go. Come up with a very solid argument that will go into be justified. Number two, you see people talk about a lot in the work of the police. I think I need to comment on that because I see even US...
I'll actually be coming to that shortly.
Yes, okay, perfect. So then let me finalize it in terms of what our young people have to do and the difference between Bangladesh and our demonstrators. The Bangladesh were not only youth. These are the whole country that we are demonstrating. And of course, the element of having the youth as the majority in the crowd was there, but they had sequence. So as I mentioned last time in our conversation here, when we are talking about you know, partyless and leaderless and that, I think we need to come together. Our demonstrators must clearly express what exactly they want to achieve in demonstrating. You know, when you come out and you demonstrate, people must know exactly what you are looking for. For example, in the initial demonstration, we had the issue of Finance Bill 2024. This was very much objective to their outcry. They explored all avenues. They presented their memos to Parliament. They sent in memos to the president saying that this is not right. They expressed again their in their demonstration, but parliamentarians could not listen to them. If the president has submitted to parliament and parliamentarians could not listen to them and they were doing business as usual, they had to do what they did. And that has resulted in abolishing or taking it off completely. So what we need at this point is Nane and Ruto must go. It's not adding up.
Jackson,
we want something solid.
Jackson, even as you give a rejoinder, do you believe perhaps this mentality, if it was applied, let's say to the removal of cabinet secretaries in the maiden cabinet, it will have worked? Or demonstrations proved to change the political landscape that previously perhaps was almost impossible?
It's evident that the only way the president can listen to Kenyans is through protest. Tulianza na easy conversation kwa media kila mahali tukiambia we don't want this finance bill. The president could not listen. And after he started listening to the Kenyans after protest. And the reason why tunasema like we want the president to resign is because if tukienda hata ile route ya kutumia parliament, impeachment, like these our MP voters, they are bought. You can see like the likes of John Mbadi, the likes of these ODM MPs, walikuwa wana oppose the president, but as soon as wamepewa pesa, they are given jobs, they cannot do that. They cannot like stick na their words. And say hata like if we say like we are using the method ya kusema like let's impeach the president, it cannot be done because all these MPs, most of them they are paid, they are selfish. So tunaenda kwa state kusema like okay, ni mkona like the same way finance bill ilikuwa inapita vizuri tu, we are not being listened to. So alafu tukienda kwa state ndio tukasikizwa. So see young people tunasikia if you want the president to, it's pia kwa constitution anaweza resign mwenyewe.
And in fact Kihara, President William Ruto speaking yesterday while in Embu, my director Joan will just play this clip. The president spoke on today's Gen Z demonstrations. That is Nane. Listen in.
Sisi ni nchi ambayo tunaamini kwa amani. Hatutaki fujo katika taifa letu la Kenya. Hatutaki maandamano ambayo inaleta maafa, ambayo inaleta kuharibifu wa mali, ambayo watu wanapoteza mali yao. Tunataka amani. Watu wa Embu mnasema tunataka amani ama mnataka fujo iendelee? Mnataka amani? Hebu niole wala anasema tunataka amani katika taifa letu la Kenya.
So Jackson here, the president says mnataka amani ama fujo iendelee. So these demonstrations basically are, you know, people looking at them as anti-government.
Yeah, so sisi first of all we are peaceful. Kama I think hata watu wenye kwa hapo it's evident watu wenye wanamchia, I think they are paid. Because there is no way mtu akiingia kwa power like the fuel was around 130. Mtu amekuja imefika 190 alafu still unalipo you are cheering him. I think those are acting. But the majority of the people, they are not together with him. Alafu pia we are peaceful and hao ndio wanalipa hawa nini, hao wenye wana loot vitu. Hata tulikuwa tunaona like the police were protecting these people kwa hizo protests zimekuwa. So I think wakitaka kusema ati like atutaki peace, hiyo ni wanataka ku divert attention, like kusema ati we are not peaceful, but we are very peaceful.
I'm getting to you, Vivian. But yesterday, the Gen Zs held a press conference just to affirm that today's demonstrations are on. Joan, take it away.
Zimetoka wapi? Unajali mwananchi wa kawaida kweli? Na ndio tunatoka nje tukuambia hii government ya Ruto si ya mwananchi wa kawaida, ni ya mabilionaires. Na tutokeni kama tumekasirika. Wakituua tutaendelea na struggle.
And today we are saying that Nane is going to be covered within the legal constitution, and we are hoping that the police will also be legal with us in the streets.
If we see unidentified men in civilian clothing riding in government vehicles that have obfuscated policies, we shall treat them as robbers.
Na tunasema ya kwamba tunajua vijana wetu wa ghetto wamekuwa kitumika kama goons. Kesho ni siku ya kukataa na kusema ya kwamba hizo pesa wamekuwa wakiiba, anakuja kutulipa nazo, twende tuibia Wakenya wenzetu. Tumekataa hiyo jinga ya tumekataa.
People need accountability, respect and transparency in governance. These are very rational demands. The Kenyan people are crying loudly that they want a sovereign country not to be ruled by dogs of great powers. They are crying for a pro-people regime.
We need to have a force at the moment with the young people so that by 2027 we have a clear presidential candidate who also can be a young leader, so that we really have the leadership that we want as the Kenyan people and also as the young people.
Vivian, those are the issues that the Gen Z and the demands that they have. In fact, they are saying police officers should be uniformed. In case they see anyone not in uniform while in the police vehicles, they treat them as robbers.
I agree with some of the sentiments, but the one thing I don't agree with is this press briefing seems to have been organized by the Communist Party of Kenya. I saw Buka Omole there, one of the very vocal people. He's the Secretary General for Communist Party. And if you're if you're saying you're against politicians and you want a different regime, what are you doing sitting with politicians? Because if we are being honest, even Boniface Mwangi is a politician. He's the party leader of Usawa Party of Kenya, unless he resigned. But if we are being honest, you know, there's political interests at play here. So it's very easy to point fingers and blame Ruto, blame Raila, blame, you know, politicians. But you're sitting at the same table with the very same, with the very same politicians. Let me finish. You're saying, okay, you're saying you're not against politicians, but
You're against bad governance.
Okay, but that is not clear here. You see, that is not clear here because now.
So you take an issue with them because they.
I take an issue with the double speak. I take an issue
but
with the
saying
double
the issue
speak.
here is not politicians.
No,
it's good governance.
I take an issue with the double speak in the sense that when the protests began, it was very clear that we wanted cost of living to come down. People were against the finance bill, but now the protests have morphed and become more against anti-regime. Like it's like we want to push through a civilian coup, not going through. The president came in through the ballot, but we want him to go out through another means, not the ballot, you see.
Well, at that juncture, we take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be picking that conversation right there. And also to ask Vivian, is she in any political party? Perhaps you can answer that before we take this break. Which political party? Maybe that's the reason why she's defending ODM party, which is said to being in bed with the government of the day. We take a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.